We have several folks on here from municipal and government organizations, and many of them are concerned with measurement and also how much time should be invested versus traditional versus social media. You know, we've talked a lot about integration, but do you have any guidance on time?
I don't believe there's any rule of thumb, for hours and such. I think you really have to do, like I was partially kidding about our lobbyist friends getting out the calculator. They have their meeting each week. They talk about certain things. There's subcommittees. They can quantify how much they're going to spend each week. They can also decide whether or not it's worthwhile. I think for the municipal folks, if you go back to your plan and say, what are we trying to accomplish and what will it take to accomplish that, then you can kind of make that ROI determination. What's your value proposition? Is it worth spending all that time? Is it the right way to go about whatever you're trying to achieve, or is there a better way?
Another concern from the municipal sector is the legalities of it. Some of them feel that some of the legal advice that they're getting is if you post it on social media, you need to do a full media press alert. What happens when social media becomes one way? What is your advice in that regard?
Legalities?
On the do you engage if it can only be a one-way conversation?
It's more of a, we've seen Facebook examples and others where it's really not Facebook, it's more of a bulletin board. And that one-way street's really not social media. It happens to be in the same space, but it's not social. And I think if you're in that situation and it has to do with legal ramifications or limitations, I think that's legitimate. However, you really have to see if folks are utilizing it in the same way. It seems to me like it'd be switching gears for somebody to go from a social environment to look at a listing of things. It's a pretty far stretch.
We do have another question as to how often should you tweet? And I know that's something that we discussed, the frequency of things, and it really comes down to an organization's plan. Absolutely. And what your goals are.
And what do you have to say? I'll make it parallel to one of the rules of thumb on blogs and creating blogs, that they say before you even start doing a blog, make sure you have your first 12 entries in the can. Make sure that you don't run out of ideas 12 after that. And it's kind of the same thing. If you set the pace, everybody goes out all exuberant and all gung-ho on social media, and then a month later they're only posting once a month. Maybe you lost something there. Or maybe in your planning, you didn't find the right angle. Maybe it's not about everything. Like in education, for example, we're seeing separate Facebook page for dorm life, for athletics. And at first I thought that was overkill, but if you think about it, what would that one Facebook page be? Be filled with a little bit of everything and throw it out and hope that people get on. It seems like a focused sliver of what you're about might be one of the ways to go with that.
I think that we've addressed all the questions presented. There was one more comment in regards to assessment. The individual says, we publicize through a number of channels and ask at our events how people found out about our events, but people rarely say Facebook or Twitter. And if I may speak on that, I think they may rarely say Facebook or Twitter, but don't be deceived that they aren't seeing that information on Facebook or Twitter, and that may be the catalyst to find that information on your website, to go to your bulletin board, to visit your company in person. I think everything has to work together, and it comes back to that integration. Absolutely.
In the advertising realm, if consumers are asked where they saw an ad, it's rarely on outdoor. Outdoor is a support medium, which Facebook is kind of a support medium if done the right way to the rest of your communications. They may just see it as something that's seamless. Also, I think there's some danger when you measure in unbundling. Think about the theme today of integration. To look and say, oh, that one thing didn't work. Well, perhaps it worked, as you're saying, because it was with something else, and that what finally spurred them to action was another component, but it still had its role. keep thinking integration, and I think you'll get to where you need to be.
And we have one additional question. Is there any data available to break down the percentage of reported Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter users that are using these vehicles specifically for business purposes?
Like hard data as far as how many?
How many actual businesses are on there? With Twitter, that would be complicated.
I think there are estimates and anecdotal bits of information. I did see a breakdown by social media platform according to age the other night, and I thought that was kind of fascinating. But I think, back to the observe and learn stage, perhaps that's a good place to start. You'll see what information's on there. Because the thing is, you may have that specific notion and want to know that, and if it's pivotal to how you're going to develop your plan, go see if that's out there. I think aggregate scores and aggregate numbers, to me, aren't quite as important as the universe that you're playing in and that you're conversing within. You want to find out within your sector, or if you're a municipality, how many others do it. When you go to your next conference, have a nice conversation with everybody. Even try to make it a session and learn from that. Everybody's learning together. And we have to be careful, too, as we learn about social media, that what it is today, it might not be tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Remember MySpace? Mm-hmm. It was all that was being talked about for a while, and now it's not. But the same basic premises would still apply to other social media platforms that come forward. Google has to be next with something. There's got to be the next thing. And Facebook, if you follow any of the levels of dissatisfaction from users, it's primed for a change. So.
One more question has come in. What do you think of QR codes? A fad?
As far as a fad goes, I think the notion of what they do is wonderful. I think there are a couple of things it puts into play beyond just whether they're faddish or not. The idea of, if you're using QR codes, please make sure that you have a mobile-friendly or a mobile version of your website.
Absolutely.
There are ways around that. You could use the QR code to take you to another type of document, another type of landing page. That's legitimate. I don't think folks are going around looking for QR codes left and right, although I've heard some really good practices. One is a jeweler in a major city who is doing weekly sales through that. They have a huge QR code outside their building once a week for a deal that's only available through that QR code. I think it's brilliant. You don't want people driving while they're doing that, but they can pull up into the parking lot and do it. We just, for one of our clients, Pennsylvania Apples, we just integrated a QR code in a banner outside our building. We're celebrating their campaign, and if folks go onto it, they will find the web version of the mobile.
Interesting. I think you also, that comes back to your research, and you have to determine if your audience is primed for the use of QR codes before making that investment.
And exactly what it's doing. I think it's it's a pretty broad question. I think it's really timely. Look what we've seen Macy's campaign, where you can walk around the store and get the experiences that some major celebrities have. Brilliantly done. A lot invested in it. Can it be a little more simple? Sure. You could have. I think it was in Brooklyn, they had all of the cultural sites put their QR codes out front as part of a whole promotion and tied it together that way, that I don't need to walk through that front door. I can learn about the artist and what they're showing and things like that.
And that wraps up our questions. Thank you, Joe, for sharing this excellent information on social media. And we'd also like to offer a special thank you. I know there were some questions in this regard. To Lisa Ruggiero of the NRC for her technical assistance and for recording this webinar. The webinar will be available on both the NRC and Pennsylvania RMC website, recorded with the PowerPoint presentation. And on that note, we thank you all for your participation. We hope that you'll join us next month as we explore organics and food waste recycling. That webinar will be held on Monday, January 9th at 1:30 p.m. Thank you again, and have a great day.